We have only 35 chambers. There is no 36.
I know that. But I want to create a new chamber.
And what would that be?
I think Shaolin techniques should be available to all. So then, that's my idea for a new chamber. To teach the martial arts to the people. Anybody.
All right, welcome back to another episode of My Three Cents. Yes, I'm back again, random as I always am, because I move on the cycles of my growth. And that's one of the problems with being, not a problem, but that's one of the things about being genetically activated is because you no longer have control of how you cycle. And you become so psychically sensitive to everything that you are pretty much at the will of the activation. You're now this, it's kind of like how the Christians tell you that you're a vessel. So you're kind of that, but you didn't know that's what you was going to be, right? So when you become activated, this thing happens where it's almost like an amnesia at the same time, because you kind of forget a lot of how you used to feel. You can't recall it. Now, somebody can bring up a memory or something like that that can connect some things, and then you'll have like this vague memory of even your own events. You won't, it's almost like some type of weird disattachment from yourself, right? From your old self. So what happens is, you got to get used to that. You got to get used to that. And you become this thing where information is kind of coming through, right? And they say, well, you know, when you hear people say they got a download or something like that, when you hear me refer to getting a download, this is what I mean. When you get a download, it can come a few different ways. A download can be like a symbol of a download, or that a download is happening that you might not be aware of at the time, is the ringing in the right ear. You'll get this weird frequency that'll only be in one ear. Now, this is similar to back when the internet was dial-up, okay? And there was a series of frequencies that went off that was initiating the connection, okay? We're just talking about sounds and, you know, codes. That's it. I mean, this whole thing is built off of that, right? So, I mean, even when they talk about your genetics, they say what? Your genetic code, okay? So don't think of yourself beyond a calculation, because, like I've said before, this life, your life, is you trying to figure yourself out the whole time. So becoming activated, there's this genetic awakening, and it's referred to so many different ways, in my opinion, because it encompasses everything, right? So whichever angle you're looking at it from is how you're going to describe it or depict it. So you can't fault or blame anybody for how they describe it and how they mention it. You can only feel if it's real. Now, a person that is not activated cannot feel necessarily if somebody is tricking them that they are activated, right? Because they are going to be making connections with them. They're going to be agreeing to things they are saying, because these two are not activated, but one is trying to attain it. So he may have been studying or coming across some things. He may be on that path, right? And because a lot of people are on the path to awakening but are not there yet. And this is a big deal, because you got to ask yourself, are you one of the ones where the awakening was brought to you, or are you one of the ones out here looking for it? And this is important because, in my opinion, again, this is my 3 cents, right? When you're looking for it, this can be very confusing, and it can send you into a bad spiral. And I use that term purposely because we understand the knowledge of the spiral, right? So that's what we're doing with that. When it finds you, it could do the same thing, but I feel like you have a better chance of coming to a more deeper realization when it comes to you, because you can learn to, you can go to it and at it from the angle of acceptance, right? So you can say, well, I didn't bring this upon myself. It chose me. I am chosen. You got to go through this whole thing, right? It's like the hero's journey. You got to go through this whole thing to get back around to yourself and say, I accept it. Now, once you accept it, this is just when it starts. Everything before acceptance was turmoil, just chaotic energy, which again is not negative. There is no positive, negative, unless we're talking about energy polarities. Other than that, there is no positive or negative, so we should never refer to events as this was a positive, this was a negative day, anything like that, because that is some type of dualistic, weird way of thinking, and it's minimalizing what the day actually is. So, and what it is to you energetically and spiritually, right? Even without you being consciously aware. So a lot of times that's why we got to watch what we say. Because you don't know what you're blocking or slowing down by just talking too much and not understanding the power of these vibrations, especially when they're targeted. It's just like a gun. It is a physical form. It is the same thing, right? Just imagine there's words or the bullets. It is the same thing. So watch what you fire off at people and at yourself, because suicide is real, and word suicide is real too. So with awakening, with me, I was one that it found me, right? My whole life has been strange. If somebody was from the outside looking in, they would say, man, he had a strange and troubling life, because from the beginning, like I've mentioned before, we've all had abusive situations and this and that. You know, I grew up in that. You know, so I had to deal with what came with that later, right? Shadow work. I had a few other events that were traumatic events in my life. And again, this is a part of the hero's journey. This is what I learned later. This is a part of the hero's journey. Because if I didn't go through these things, I wouldn't have been able to arrive at where I am, right? So now, as I can say I am, I have to think back to times when I didn't think I was. And maybe I would just sit and be low, and even in a suicidal place multiple times in my life, because of the magnitude of the events around me. Okay, so this is just how it was. So being able to make it through that and to this, I feel like I at least need to do the service of communicating some of this stuff to the people that are listening. Don't worry about who's listening. Don't worry about anything. You know, I don't read the comments. I don't even look for the comments. If there's a way to find the comments, I don't care about that. I don't really look at the views or the listens. I really don't, because I'm trying to really just do this for who it's for. And I know it'll find them, and I know if you're listening to it, you're supposed to be listening to it. So just take it in. I don't care if you judge it. I don't care what you say about me, because this is a part of my journey that you're involved in. Congratulations, right? So if you think I'm great, you're equally great, because you're here. That matters, right? That's matter. You're here, so you matter. So that being said, you know, it came to me, I feel like a lot of traumatic events in my life, looking back on it, were the key elements. And it was kind of like going through your chakras to try to reach that crown chakra. And, you know, when I got older and started learning about different things, just by feeling it first and then looking into it. I was not one to seek information for the sake of just seeking things. I wasn't. I hated to read, even though I was easily to understand things. I just didn't like to do the actual work that seemed mundane to me. I wasn't shoved books as a kid, like here's a book, here's a book, here's a book. I wasn't treated that way, so it was more like here's a toy. Or I was outside, you know, with my friends doing something. So with this, when it found me, when this energy found me, it reminded me of everything that I've been through. You know, the abuse of childhood, the psychological trauma of, you know, my father, my actual father not being there, and me not knowing him. And one of the amazing things about my life is that, and I couldn't deny this, it got so big. Like these cycles became so tremendous that they started to actually collide with each other. Now this was some serious shit. I mean, really, like one event that was the most traumatic, right? Me facing that head on instead of going the opposite direction like I often used to do caused a collision. And this event ran into my very first event. Like, I couldn't make this up. So this is what I'm saying. My life was filled with so many crazy synchronicities that there's nothing I could ever deny. I would literally have to give up on the universe to knock myself out of this game. And I knew that. I knew I had everything on me, right? But I just couldn't control it. So, with these traumas, when they met, it blew my mind. I couldn't really handle it, right? This was a period in my life where, let's see, my first trauma is linked to my father leaving as a child, right? I was 3 years old. Boom. That was the end of dad. He didn't show up where he was supposed to show up. Long story short, it was me and mom's. So that was the beginning trauma that started the whole thing. That was the first tear. And please understand that the word tear and tear are the same for a reason, because you only enunciate them different based upon the context, right? Other than that, it's the same. Because for you to shed actual tears is to express the tears in certain chakra. And it's normally the heart chakra. But the tears of expression also come through root chakra, right? Because you cry from both more than anything else. You know, it's very random that you cry from knowledge, where you'll read something so profound that you cry. Now, this does happen after you start to become activated. I'll talk about that another time, but, you know, the intensifying of emotion and connection. But right now, what I'm saying is, you know, this thing is, it's amazing when it connects. And so these tears are the tears. These are the representation of the chakras or the places that need to be healed. And the events, looking back on it, was like stairway through the 7th chakra to get to crown chakra, where I am now. And even my name, like everything started showing me the storyline. And as I progressed, as the trauma seemed more intense, so did the storyline progress in the knowledge form. You get what I'm saying? Like, I was taking in all these lessons. That's one thing about me, is I never rejected the lessons from what I was going through, because I considered myself a risk taker, but I always say I take calculated risks, right? And I prided myself on that. I pride myself on taking calculated risks, right? This is risk management 101. Make your risk calculated, at least. What's an uncalculated risk? That's fucking foolishness, right? So, I mean, I remember being, not to get off track, but I remember being in the 5th grade or 4th grade when kids coming at me like, you know, some stuff went down in school. What do I tell my parents? How do I lie? Because they knew Steve was good. What's wrong with this kid? So, yeah, I was already on that because, you know, like I said, that first, you know, Pop's not being there and this whole thing happening was the beginning of the opening of the chasm, the canyon, right? But this was just a tear. And at first I couldn't even shed tears. I didn't have time. You know, I was bombarded with a new person, right? So this takes it on to the next level of the trauma. So just going into that, and then, you know, this ultimate trauma as I'm older, involving my firstborn, my son. This trauma collided. This planet collided. This whole galaxy collided with one of my old galaxies. My first. My first collision, right? So how do you go through trauma and progress at the same time? You know what it takes to be able to do that? Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people really don't. And I feel like it was my connection with the dreams, me being able to dream the way I did and still do, that carried me through. Because again, I was facing things in dreams that people weren't facing in their real life. And this is every day. I still, to this day, every time I sleep, I slip off. I go into what some would call the land of Nod. Some would say the fifth dimension. Some would say the nether, the ether, the astral plane. Whatever you want to describe it as, I've often said was the gift and the curse for me. Because I've had to deal with that. Every time I close my eyes to so-called rest, I'm gone. And I'm doing something, I'm swept up in some type of situation. So, doing that my whole life, through the abuse, through the traumas, through everything, I'm also battling these things in the unseen every single night. So every day I'm slightly different, I'm slightly more advanced. Because I've had double the time to tackle myself, right? So during the day, I'm working the physical. At night, I'm working the mental. This whole thing was set up in like this yin yang format. Perfect. And it was almost like, so the trauma couldn't overcome what I was getting from the trauma. You got to think about that. You know, it's like the perfect ratio with anything. Don't you always want the perfect ratio? We are genetically designed for that. You know, it's like making a sandwich and putting too much damn meat to bread. And you're like, man, this is disgusting. But it's all the ingredients you wanted, but the ratio is off. So that it makes it terrible. You don't even want it. So ratio is important. The balance is important. And so I was given this imbalance that was the blessing, because the trauma was going to be so heavy that if I was given anything lesser on the other side, I would have been annihilated. Easy prey. And it happens like that because, back to what we are really talking about, is that you have a larger purpose on you, and a lot of times we don't know how to get to that. We just don't know. And there's these dark times where you have no idea of anything. And I'm going to start talking more about my own processes and journey, so that you guys can know that I'm not just somebody on here talking for fun or any of that. Because remember, when I do this, this is pain for me too. This is pain to give you something. Please believe I'm exchanging something right here. You're just with me at the bank. This is the astral bank, and you guys are with me. It's like you're right behind me in line, and you're listening to my transaction. So I don't do this for nothing. But believe me, this ain't free. So when I say support the podcast, and it would be wise for you guys to pitch in and do something, and Cash App and things I've left behind on the description and whatnot. I mean, it's cool if you want to do that. I don't even put the Cash App anymore. And I don't really put the email every time, but I will. And I'll say it right now, skotr36@gmail.com. Hit me up. If you want a conversation, I mean, let's get in it. Because I'm better when I'm directed, right? When I have a target, I'll hit it. So with this, everything got to come together to say, hey, man, go ahead and talk and just feel free, right? So that's what this is. So back to what we're talking about. Awakening, trauma, and how this all relates to each other. And trauma is the key to your awakening. So those of you that have never understood Heru's story, have never looked into that, I suggest you look into it. There's a man named Joseph Campbell. This guy is a genius with breaking down mythology and helping you understand and understand that a lot of these things that we take for religion and fact are indeed old mythologies and stories and tales that have just became these mutants, right? These mutated forms of energy. So, yeah, Joseph Campbell. Check him out. So the hero's journey involves leaving home, going out. I'm gonna just put this in short term, right? I'm just gonna say this quick: leaving home, going out, having experience, downfall, overcoming, conquering, returning home, welcomed home, and celebrated when he gets home. He or she. This is the hero's journey or the Heru journey. Now, at some point in your life, we all are Heru more than we are other things. We are all these energies, but at different times, you are more leaning towards certain ones, right? When you feel like sex or fighting or whatever the case may be, those are the things you lean toward. And I said those two because they're pretty opposite. They're pretty far from each other, hopefully, for some people. So I'm just showing you examples of how we often lean majorly in certain directions because that's what's necessary for the time being. So at different times, you are different entities, energies, ancestors, whatever you want to call them. It's all you. Get to know yourself. Stop judging yourself. Stop rejecting parts of yourself. Stop calling the darkest parts of yourself the devil. Stop referring to the darkest unknown parts of yourself as the Satan. Let that go. All right? So let's get back to this lesson, this cosmic energy about what happens and how you get to this awakening step, right? These stages. So, with the trauma, when my traumas collided, it broke my brain, right? I'm just going to put this in a simple way. It broke my brain. It caused me to reboot. And you see, all this is possible as long as you don't try to forcefully exit the game. Don't try to exit the system, right? Don't leave the body and leave the body. Because just like how Heru leaves home, remember, home is also reference to the body. Earth is reference to the body, right? So we understand these things already. So even when they're talking about Heru leaving home, this is you leaving yourself even. And it doesn't have to be a physical home, land, family situation. Collapse that down and the family is you. The home is you. The Heru is you. The situation is you. You can keep collapsing this thing and taking full responsibility in the process. That's what really starts to happen. You start to take full responsibility for your role. This is a part of the awakening process, right? And again, you don't know this is the awakening process until you done woke up. While you're in it, you just think that you might be going nuts. You don't know. You don't know what's going on with you, really. And so it's tough because if somebody doesn't know what they're going through, you might seek the help of a quote unquote professional, and they might just put you on some type of chemical and alter you. You see? Because this is what they want to quickly do. Because they have no knowledge of these type of transformations. Remember, the European calls this section of the DNA junk DNA. Look it up. It's called junk DNA. This is what they refer to it as. What sane creature, what sentient, supposedly intelligent creature would find a part of themselves, within themselves, at the base of themselves and call it junk? Who the hell does that? So you got to understand who they are talking about when they are referring to this section of DNA, because guess what? They do not have this section of DNA. Theirs is extremely small, almost non-existent in percentage. You see, every creature closest to coming from Kemet has a longer DNA strand. And like I've mentioned before, the European has the shortest DNA strand. So even his sections are sectioned smaller. You get what I'm saying? These are sections. So very limited in his evolution. He can't become many things, and even the sun itself, with the life giver, the life bringer, can take him out. because of how he's created. I'm not saying anything about good, bad, right, wrong. I mean, again, this isn't a form of subtle racism. It's just factoid. It's just like saying, it is what it is. So, um, let's get back to the trauma and what happens with this awakening. So, the junk DNA, this is a section of the DNA that they did not understand what it does. And what I've figured out through gnosis and through studying is that what happens is this becomes activated at a certain point in your life. And what I've also found is, guess what, guys? Everyone has a custom time set to them where their junk DNA becomes activated. You don't have to do anything. So this is why I felt like it was important to bring this up, these two ways of going on this journey, because the ones out there seeking that know something great to know exists, I would caution you against it because you're not ready for it. And you will get to a point where you will have to turn back. This can lead you into a weird cycle, a weird space. It can leave you on the side of the road. So in my opinion, it's like, just wait till it comes to you. Just be. Do the things like meditation and reading, and because your time is close if you're on the path, but don't force it. You got to go way, woo, way, the middle ground, doing, not doing. Remember, way, woo, way. It's in Zen Buddhism, doing, not doing. Okay? Because you can get to a point where the unstoppable force hits the immovable object. You can get to that point and it can feel like insanity. That's a representation of insanity. Or sometimes they refer to it as the mosquito biting the iron bull. So, as far as the awakening goes, when it came to me, and like I said, looking back, I saw the correlation of all the events and what purpose they had in the awakening process. And so when all this connected for me finally, there was a day where I simply came out of my room. I was not expecting any of this. I came out of my room. My daughter was with her grandma. They had just went out of town to see some relatives. I decided to stay home and do some work and have some downtime. And so even that day was kind of designed where everyone would be gone and it would just be me there, right? So I come out the room, and I really didn't know this was going to go into my awakening story, but I might as well tell the story of the day where, this is what happened, where I realized this was the beginning of my process. Again, I did not seek this stuff out. I was not doing any kind of meditations. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I was just living, and I was just trying to figure it out day by day. I was talking to a lot of people, as far as people seem to think I was helping them through conversation and just listening and giving them good advice. But my advice was based on my life experience. It wasn't necessarily connected or as connected to the ancestors consciously as it is now. So I come out and, something just felt weird, just felt different. I walk in the living room, I'm just standing there and I'm like, man, what feels funny about today? Something just, I couldn't put my finger on it. So I'm opening the blinds and just looking around the room, right? And so I stood there in silence for a minute, like no TV was on, nothing was on. I haven't done anything, I haven't eaten, drank anything, I haven't done anything yet. I just woke up, walked out into the living room. So a thing that happens with me a lot, and I never knew why, but sometimes when it's very quiet, when there's quote unquote silence, I'll hear music or conversation. And it'll be from what seems to be far away. Now, what I've found this to be, there's studies for this kind of stuff, and it's just some people have an unusual brain activity where when you become connected, again, these are the type of things that start to happen. So if you've ever just been sitting and think you hear music or a faraway conversation and you can't quite make out what's being said, but you can tell that it's talking, right? That is a part of this. That is a part of the awakening. It's called clairaudience. It's when you can hear beyond your old ability of hearing. Now, this is no different than animals and other creatures because I had to make this make sense to myself. That's why I'm about to say this because I went on a study. I went on a whole thing where I was like, wait a minute, what just happened, right? So I'm looking up, can people hear angels, all kind of stuff. I'm trying to figure out what was going on. And so there is information on all of this, and other people were having these same experiences. So this is one of the first things that started connecting me to oneness and understanding that we were all going through the same thing at different times, blah, 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 right? So as this was happening, I'm standing there, I'm getting the music, all that stuff is happening. It's very silent, very kind of eerie. And I knew that there was some type of presence. There was something in the house, like I could just feel it, right? So I out loud say, is this God? Because again, I'm still in the Christian mind frame at this point. I'm still a Christian. Yeah. So my first question was, is this God? And immediately, this was my very first clear download. Because what happens is you'll ask a question, right? And you'll immediately get an answer. And it's not audio, but it's more like a sense of an answer. I can't explain it really, but it is the answer. You definitely know for sure, and you don't have to wait more than a split second. It's right there. Even if the answer is a conversation, right? The answer could be a paragraph worth of answer, and it's going to come to you in an instant. That's how you know these are downloads, where you got to actually sit back and unpack this thing and say, what just hit me? Am I hit? Am I bleeding? That's how fast it happens. So it was no, this is not God. No, it didn't say this is not God. It was just like, no. These were like very, yes, no, it was so dry and precise that I was just standing there stunned like, what is going on? Am I still dreaming? I'm literally like, am I still dreaming? All right. So I say, what would your next question be? Obviously, if you say, is this God? And you get a no, what? I can guess what everybody's next question is, because who wouldn't have this as the next question? Is it the devil? Is it the devil? No. And I'm like, okay, now we getting somewhere. Is it an angel? No, right? So I had no idea really what was going on, but right when I did ask about the angels, I was given a quick download, almost like a lesson, to tell me that angels are angles. And these, what we call angels, we put them in the angelic form when we look at them because that is the opposite of the form they were used to be put in. This is a more beautiful form of the angels, or the angel demons, or the angel spirits, or whatever you want to call them. There's plenty of names for this stuff, right? It's whatever you choose to recognize it as. The reckoning, right? The recognizing. You got to recognize. When you recognize, man, that's it. That's you and that thing, man. You have made a choice, right? So I was instantly showed that, okay, these are angles. And this is reference to how this world is orchestrated, how it's built. It was the structure. It was more related to mathematics, the universal mathematics. And it talked about right angles and 90-degree angles, and that these were what represented the angels, because without the angels in existence, we wouldn't have any structure. So it easily decoded. That was one of the first things that was decoded to me when I started going through the awakening. Angles or angels. And I was just like, wow, okay. Still not sure what's really going on. I say, does this have anything to do with my dreams? Because now that I know I'm getting answers and there's some type of communication, look, I've been dreaming and going through shit my whole life. Who am I to be on some shock shit like, oh, this is crazy, I can't, what's going on, oh, possession? Nah, man, come on. It's going to take more than instant gnosis to spook me. Really? Come on, like, so I'm like, does this have anything to do with my dreams? Yes. My first yes. I'm like, oh shit. And so the download from the dreams was this. I was told instantly that the reason I've been dreaming my whole life was because of the trauma that I was going to have to go through. And so the dreams was to act as a constant, not a father, not anything else that would actually be constant. See, I had nothing constant. My world was chaos. The constant was I going to get abused again, or what was going to happen, right? Being on edge was my constant. And to this day, I kind of suffer from what they call hypervigilance because of that. Look it up. Look, if you never heard of hypervigilance, look it up. A lot of y'all probably got it too and don't realize it. It's a part of old trauma. It develops into you as a teenager and adult based upon old trauma. It's called hypervigilance. All right. So I had no constant. And the dreams, I was told, was my constant. And it was like, okay, the dreams were supposed to show you that you were connected to something higher. Even though you didn't understand it, there was something above what you did understand. That was supposed to be the point. So hold on. That was it. So, and I easily accepted that. I got it. And so another thing in my life that was strange throughout my whole entire life was this thing with there was a number that would always show up. And everybody that knows me knows this number because even if I was with them, there would be these weird circumstances where my synchronicities would rub off on them. Even to this day, that's why I got to be careful. I'm very careful who I spend my time with, females I sleep with, because my energy easily gets on them and it starts to change them. And a lot of times they won't understand what's happening. And now I have a certain responsibility to be there because I left a piece of me there. So that's another thing. When you start going through the awakening, brothers and sisters, you start to think different. And you cannot go against it because it is now a part of you. So all these reactions other people will have, you no longer having. And other people might find it strange. Other people might find it strange. Don't worry about that. They're strange, right? And being strange is good. Like I teach my daughter, if nobody was strange, wouldn't have inventions, wouldn't have progression. If nobody was willing to do what everybody else is not willing to do, there would be nothing, quote unquote, new. And I'm an inventor, so you already know. I'm a creator, inventor. I'm strange already in a lot of people's eyes. My daughter is too, but she's super intelligent, so am I. So we'll work with what we got. You feel me? So rely on yourself at the end of the day. Don't worry about what other people are making of you because they don't understand your journey and they don't understand where you are in your cycle, right? Because again, reminder, you have a time set on your awakening. You don't have to do anything except be, right? Be, breathe is all the same. So let me see, where was I? With the, let me see, we're talking about the trauma, we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to jump down to, okay, we're talking about the awakening. All right. So that day, the dreams was my first yes. Boom, got that download. Got the angels, got the dreams, got the God, got the devil. It's like, all right. Didn't have explanation of those two yet. I do have them now. I have absorbed them. I have absorbed that. That's a whole nother conversation. So moving forward in that day, I didn't cut any electronics on, nothing. I felt highly sensitive to the energies of everything, electronics, just like I was feeling everything. This is the best I can explain what was happening, and it was totally out the blue. This was a Saturday. This energy, this thing lasted throughout the weekend. So this connection, right? This little process, it's like a gateway. I don't know what it was, but it lasted throughout the weekend. So I get the urge to leave the house because I'm just thinking and walking around. I'm asking questions. I'm getting answers. Some of the answers blow me away because I don't understand the answers. See, I was getting more downloads than I could unpack and digest. I couldn't make sense and connection with these things yet. So, for instance, one of my next questions was, it was something about God, but then it was almost like I was interrupted to say, the way you think about God and angels is wrong. And it was almost like something kind of speaking to me about mankind, right? It wasn't just about me, because it was kind of like a y'all, like the way y'all are thinking, the way you all think about God and the angels and those things, it's incorrect, it's wrong. So I didn't understand that answer for probably a little over a year after that. A year, like over a year went by until I was able to think back on it and say, whoa, this is what that meant. Because now I'm able to break this stuff down. I've absorbed it. I get it. I get the whole hoopla. A lot of people don't. A lot of people won't. When I say you have a time set for your awakening, here's the thing. It might not be in this lifetime. You got to understand, time is still linked on to life in that aspect, lifetime. This time is smaller than lifetime. All these times, the fourth dimension is a motherfucker. Because the time, it is a temporal, it's time. The fourth dimension is time if you don't know that. And it's a temporal dimension, which means it lays on top of the previous dimension. So with us being in the third dimension, right? Beings in the third dimension, observing everything in 2D. That's how we know we're in 3D. Once again, the fourth dimension is a temporal dimension of time. It lays on top of this dimension, so it affects this dimension. It decays this dimension. Time had to exist for the process to exist. This is something we can't get around. Right? Those two things had to coexist in this realm for this realm to function. So time, man, time breaks down. I'm gonna do another episode on time. I'm gonna give time its own episode. So, long story short, I got a lot of answers that day. A lot of strange things happened. I walked to the store, experienced nature different. It's just a lot of stuff was different. And ever since then, I was different. I changed. A lot of things I didn't eat the same. I stopped eating meat for a long time. A lot of things it was almost like my whole perspective was just shifted and altered as a whole. Just moved over an inch. Where I could still recognize everything, but I didn't feel the same way about everything. And I was able to clean house spiritually, energetically, physically with people. Because look, when I went around trying to tell people what happened, they thought I was nuts. And to be honest, I was sensitive to that. At first, I was sensitive to that because I'm like, what the fuck? I'm telling them, you're going around believing in all this religion stuff and it's not real. I'm trying to free you. So this is when I learned about cognitive dissonance. This is when I learned about the brain. This is when I started to study the body. And I had to absorb all that and understand why people could not grasp what was right in front of them. I got it. And I said, wow. This is when the situation kind of becomes sad, because with awakening becomes a whole period where you are saddened. Because now the weight of the world is upon you, right? Heavy is the head that lies the crown. There's a repercussion, and it's not to say you're the king, but it's to acknowledge that once something is placed upon you, it's great to have an adornment, but you have to acknowledge the weight that you're carrying as well, which might be insignificant to people that are not carrying it when they only see the adornment. How many of y'all are treated like that? How many ladies out there are treated like the adornment and nobody sees the crown, right? So this happens in awakening, and you go through a period of being somewhat alone, right? You start to limit who you're around with your energies. You go through this whole thing. So I would say, man, just let it come to you. If you're seeking knowledge, just take it. I don't know how to tell you to take it because I didn't go that route, but good luck with that. I would just let it go because it's going to find you. You feel me? Life will bring you exactly what you are attracting. That's all you need to know. So everything that comes to you is on time. That's why I don't rush anything anymore. I let things develop. If I spend time worrying, I'm taking time away from development. That energy is thrown away. Spiritual enlightenment, waking up, the awakening, whatever you want to call it, it's personal, it's tough, it's deeply profound to yourself. Do not try to awaken other people. It does not work that way. You can't do it. You'll just end up looking stupid. The nutty house is full of people that are not crazy, but have just tapped into something that most have not. So because they tried to tell too many people, they ass got locked up. And put on mind-altering drugs. Why is it that you always got to be on drugs? Like, if something's wrong with you, right? Why can't you just drink water and they feed you good? Why don't they just take you somewhere where they feed you nothing but raw vegetables and fruit and healthy stuff and give you water and treat you well and say, well, you're fucked up, so we're going to treat you really good. Nah, they're going to take you in there, give you drugs, give you things to further alter your mind, try to bring you back to this side or whatever side they're on, and that's what it is. So we got to not be so quick to call somebody crazy or nuts or whatever the case may be, especially if you're an empath. I know you can feel that. You can feel people when they're messed up, when they're happy. You know, when people are happy on TV, you're the type that cries when you watch them reveal the new house that was built for the broke family or whatever the case may be, even though they use that imagery to prey on us as well, you know, capitalism type things. We'll talk about that another time too. But let me stay on topic with this awakening and this process that happens over a whole lifetime. So you should just be patient and let it come to you. Do you like when people just come and wake you up out of your sleep, just shake you? No, nobody likes that. Trust me, I'm an avid dreamer. I hate that. Only one person would do that to me in my life, and it was my mother. I love my mother. My mother's the only person that disregarded my need for sleep. And I think it's just being a mom, being busy, just, you know. Sometimes as parents, we don't know what our kids are going through. And being a full-time parent now, I get it. Oh, I get it. But I also try to do better than my predecessors. And I try to do better than what was put upon me. And even what I would do. I like to use the child as the challenge to kind of step it up if I can. Challenge myself to have energy when I feel like I don't. You know, whatever the case may be. Be interested in what they got going on. You know what it is. I'm going to do a whole other episode for kids. I'm not going to use this episode for that. So just leaning back into the awakening, the chakras, the meditation, the being in the now. Let's summarize this thing. Be. Just be. What does that mean? Be in the now. Just breathe. Meditate. Do you. Take time. Have a life-work balance, right? Have your family as your value over your dollar. Understand that whatever you use your energy to do, if it brings you joy, it will inherently bring you money. There is no way around that. Remember, money is feminine energy. Learn how to treat your money, learn how to treat your woman. It's the same. When the money goes, she leaves. It's not her fault. They're related, okay? She's not going to stay if you just kick the peoples out. That's just how it is. If you don't know how to treat her peoples, she's not going to stay with you. All this stuff might sound like a joke, but it's totally real and totally applicable to your life. Don't spend money, circulate it. Everything moves in cycles. Remember, guys, when we're talking about chakras, we're talking about elevation to higher self, whatever you want to call this stuff, man. You cannot force it. You can't do a special diet. You can play all the frequencies you want. All it's going to do is make you sleepy and dizzy, and it might grab a hold of you and freeze you up if you don't know what you're doing. I got a story about that. I'll tell another time. A friend of mine had a bad situation with frequencies. So be careful when you're trying. That's the problem. A lot of times it's trying that is the problem. If you play sports, I'm sure you're more comfortable in the zone than out there trying to hit every bucket. So just related to that, whatever you got, whatever you're good at, relate it to when you're doing that thing effortlessly. That is how you should be trying to live your life, effortlessly, right? So this is the summary. Let me see, did I miss anything about this awakening in this summary? Because it really wasn't to educate you about the awakening. It was really to just let you know and remind you that this is something that is better if it comes to you, just like everything else, rather than you trying to find it. Because remember, when you're seeking something, that means that it is also eluding you at the same time. You're creating another end to that spectrum. It's automatic. You have to acknowledge it. You can't pick and choose what you want. Grow up. All this quick gratification, instant gratification, it doesn't work that way. You got to go through the hard times. So, let me throw this in the summary. So if you're one of the ones that has had these traumatic events in your life, a lot of bad stuff, just where you feel like, what was me? I mean, you were suicidal, just everything. You've been to the bottom, right? You scraped the bottom. It was all on you. It was so on you that you didn't even think it was disgusting no more. That's how much it was on you. If you've been there, you're blessed. You're chosen, you're marked. That was the whole point. So if you didn't suicide out, if you didn't take the easy way out, if you didn't quit the game, are you one of those that slams the controller down and kicks the TV? Or do you finish the game even though you're down by 20? This is what you got to understand. Miracles happen. Life happens. Universal balance happens. If you're getting it rough early, you're getting beat down, you're getting tore up, guess what? There's also been an opposite end of the spectrum created. So as low as you've ever felt is also a plane existing that is higher than you have ever been. The exact opposite direction. Don't forget that. So your journey, your awakening, keep it to yourself. This is extremely personal. You can share it with somebody like me because, I get it. And if you find other people that are actually activated, you can give it to them, but it's very rare. That's what I've found. It is extremely rare to be activated. Just to give you some numbers real quick, my personality type is an INFJ, right? So to be a male INFJ is about 0.3% of the population, right? It's supposedly the rarest personality type, and I think it's only because when the stars align you to that, it has aligned you to other things as well that have allowed you to go beyond where the average people will be at. And this isn't a slight to anyone, because I feel everyone is genius, but just not yet discovered. Nurturing is the key, nutrition, right? So, man, look, a lot of y'all want me doing these podcasts more and more and more frequently, but this is how I see it, guys. I got a lot of episodes down there that, regardless of what the title says, you already know that I'm touching on a lot of things, and it's coming from my spirit. This is coming from a real place. This isn't for listens and views and likes or whatever comes with these different platforms. I could care less. These people don't sponsor me because of what I talk about. I'm not giving them anything they can make money on. You get it? So if you want to support the channel, go ahead. Look it up. Figure it out. I'm not going to beg you to support this, because if you're stealing from me, that's on you. If you come in here just to eat and you never tip, that's on you. Dine and dash, I could care less. You'll starve later. I don't know. I don't wish it on you. But I do understand the universal laws of balance. You guys got to take that serious, especially when you're getting something from someone who actually puts their neck on the line, that is activated, that should be really sitting low and being silent. I walk around my neighborhood. People don't know my energy and my power. I speak to people. I'm very regular and normal because I'm a controlled monster at this point. I've been through enough. And I've survived. I've taken control of the beast. He has no control over me. He is me. Me is he. All that collapses. There's nothing. So I enjoy being polite, kind, and nice to people and conversating, but I do it because, not because I'm a nice guy, but because I enjoy being nice. Again, I always say that. I am not a nice guy. Never take me for a nice guy. Don't take me for anything. Just be real with me, and we'll get into it that way. We'll get along fabulously, like they say, or however they put it. That's how we'll get along. We'll be great. So it's important to not always show yourself. Just be what you feel like you want to be. But don't always feel this egotistical need to express what you are every fucking where you at. That's fucking stupid. That's just dumb. Don't wear your pajamas to the gas. Like, you don't need to be what you are somewhere else, everywhere at. So look, I'm gonna leave it with that. This has been my 3 cents. I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy doing this, so I'm gonna try to do it more, guys. As I cycle, as I get stronger, as I get weaker, I come back, I do me, whatever. Let's go. All right, so this has been another episode of My 3 Cents. Slow down. Don't rush the cycle. Let it come to you. Let things come to you. Take your time. All right? So until next time, this has been My 3 Cents. And I'll catch you next time. Let's go.